And good morning. Welcome to the DFS Minute. I'm your host, Michael Rathburn, aka Rath. You can find me on Twitter at FantasyWrath. Welcome into rotocurve.com. And going to be a brief one today. I know we had some DFS minutes that were running 20 minutes at sometimes, but with Thursdays, I typically do a little bit short. We do have something scheduled for tonight, maybe around 7-ish. I'm not sure if it's going to be a live show or not, but we are going to be doing what we call the State of the Industry, the State of the DFS Industry show, and I'm excited about that. So got some prep work to do for that, and probably won't be doing a lot of baseball tonight. So we won't have a DFS Minute tonight. We'll do a brief one this morning and then look for the State of the Industry show tonight. We'll definitely be promoting that throughout the day. Last night, frustration. That's all I can really tell you. I had constructed lineups pretty much wrapped around the Dodgers, and with the weather situation, and I had to scramble and recalculate everything, and I then jumped onto the Astros, which, Astros are boom or bust, and I know that going in. I'm talking about tournament lineups, so I did go with a lot of Astros last night. Springer did okay, but a lot of them, it's really tough. When you go with the Astros, it's boom or bust, and there was not a lot of stacks that I was really on last night. I did have a little bit of the Red Sox in places. They laid an egg as well. Thought maybe they would get off the schneid. They looked good earlier in the day off Phil Hughes, but they went back to being the same old Red Sox. So, some of the takeaways from yesterday is that Hector Santiago, who I thought was the #1 value pitcher on the board, laid an egg. And that was tough because everything looked great on paper for him. But he did get out of the gates and he struggled. And typically, it's real easy to go into tilt mode when your starting pitcher struggles in the first inning. Some guys get out of it. Sale had struggled a little bit in the first inning, and everybody was starting to panic. Hamill struggled in the first inning last night. Everybody started to panic. So, the first inning, a lot of people overreact and panic to it. So just settle down a little bit. When you're watching your games, everybody, likes to hit that tilt button real early. So just, calm down a little bit on that. So Santiago went out there, laid an egg, which was frustrating for me because I did tout him as a value pitcher last night. I was on Shields, who didn't really have a great game, didn't strike out a lot of guys, and then was on Hamels, who pitched really well. So all in all, not a great night. Kind of a more of like a break even on head to heads, and definitely zeros in tournaments. So that's just what it is. You just hope that you don't go down in flames too much. And you got to realize that in daily baseball, like we were talking about in the chat last night, you want to win 3 out of 5, 4 out of 7 days. So you got to take your lumps. You're going to go on hot streaks. You're going to go on cold streaks. You're going to win 5 days in a row. You're going to lose 3 days in a row. That's just how it is. So you do all the research in the world, and it's just not going to come through sometimes. So it was a little bit frustrating with the Coors weather situation. I was pretty much locked and loaded on the top 4 hitters for the Dodgers over on FanDuel. I was going to go 5 on Aces, and I was going to go 6 on DraftKings. And I was telling guys in chat, I said, I'm scrambling right now, and I really didn't have a backup plan, which is a learning lesson. Really that I'm going to give you guys is that I was all in with the Dodgers last night, and when the weather situation, I panicked and I got off them, and really I did not have a backup plan, so I'm scrambling. And that's something that you definitely, you want to be aware of weather. And if the weather situation is going to be that you need to go in another direction, be prepared. And that was something that I'll fully admit I was not prepared. And I went over to the Astros. They had a high run projected total. Gonzalez is a fly ball pitcher. They were at home, et cetera, et cetera. So, just a learning lesson for me to you guys is that be aware of the weather. And if you do need to move off a team, be prepared and have a backup plan. And so I definitely something that, I usually do, but I didn't have the time yesterday throughout the day. The other learning lesson from yesterday, a couple of them. One is, I'll give you another one, is I was looking at Jon Lester a little bit last night, only from the perspective of I had a lineup made on Fantasy Aces, and I was $50 over. And it was a difference between me and going with Hamels or going with Lester. and I was plugging in Lester, and I did not want to do it. Go over and I look at the Marlins. The Marlins crush right-hander lefties. You know about Stanton, you know about Ozuna, and then when they slide in a guy like Jeff Baker, that middle of the lineup against lefties is really tough. So I definitely got off Lester, didn't make the move, and then when the Dodger situation and the Coors situation came out, I had to completely redo my lineup. So I ended up going with Hamels and with Santiago anyway, and Shields and Santiago. So, but just a lesson on that one is don't force a play. From a salary perspective, I was getting ready to force Lester in, and I did not feel comfortable doing it. So I'm glad I didn't, because he did get bombed. So it would have been even worse for me. So, ironically, what happened was after looking at Lester, I started looking at some of the Marlins right-handed bats. So I did have Baker over on Fantasy Aces because he's super cheap, and you have to get cheap bats in there. You have to get like 2 cheap bats in there to make it worth your while. And then also, I noticed that Stanton's salary had dropped all the way to $4,300 on DraftKings. Normally he's in the 5, so they had adjusted his price because he was going against Lester. But actually, him going against Lester doesn't hurt him; it helps him. So I thought Stanton was a steal, and I did put that out in our chat room last night. I said, "Hey guys, I'm not able to do a DFS minute tonight. However, I will say that Stanton's really jumping off the board for me over at DraftKings. His salary has dropped, to the point where he's almost a must play." So be aware that we do give out information in chat late, and it definitely pays to be in there around that 6 to 7 o'clock Eastern time hour. So those are some things that we definitely put out there, some late research that happens to pop up on the radar that maybe we weren't looking at that now we do. So the other one is Chris Sale. And what happened was we really were not on Kluber or Sale yesterday. And then the Texas Rangers lineup came out. And this is something I talked about earlier on in earlier DFS Minute shows where for day games, Sunday afternoon, Saturday afternoon, or Thursday afternoon, just day games in general, be aware that some of these lineups are going to be missing players because managers are giving guys a day off, especially against a tough pitcher. So that's what happened last night with Chris Sale. Chris Sale became more of a GPP play for me, and then became more of a cash game play. But I was already locked in on what I was doing, so I hadn't even looked at Sale. I hadn't even tried to fit him in the lineup. But we were talking about it in chat, and I did mention, I said, listen, the Texas Rangers lineup has come out, and it's pretty gross. So for me, Sale does become, an option for everybody. So there were a lot of guys that did jump on Sale and stayed away from Kluber in our chat last night. So that was good. But here's basically what happened is, the guys that didn't play last night, Beltre's obviously hurt. And then now Sale is elite against left-handed pitching, but when you remove Fielder, Hamilton, Martin, and Chirinos, like Hamilton and Fielder are lefties, but still they're good hitters. And you put, Leonis Martin didn't play, and then Robinson Chirinos, who typically matches left-handed pitching, didn't play. So the Rangers rolled out like almost a AAA lineup last night, and that's why guys are jumping on Chris Sale. Chris Sale became kind of a tournament play only last night, and then became an automatic play. So just be aware that look at lineups and be aware if guys are not playing and the impact that that's going to have on your starting pitching selections, because really, for me, I should have moved to Sale. Even though Hamels and Shields did okay, I should have figured out a way to move over to Sale and sacrificed on some of the hitting and done that. So it's definitely, for me, there was some good takeaways last night. I think we can definitely learn from. Again, no analysis today, really, basically due to short time. State of the Union show tonight, a State of the Industry show tonight. We're going to be talking about some things that are going on in daily fantasy sports, so be on the lookout for that. And we'll see you back later on today. As always, stay classy, DFS.